James Blake will serve here to start the match.
Lovely
opens
chain.
the double. All right, so what is it that makes playing Santoro a nightmare?
Well, a few things. He doesn't play like anyone else, so the variety that he uses, the slice, most players could slice their backhand. He slices his forehand. He's got incredible movement and anticipation. For a little guy, he's very adept at the net. And he just understands the angles of the court. He's got great feel around the court, drop shots, lobs, variety, angles. Similar to, like I said, Lopez, he doesn't play like the normal level of player on the tour.
That was a champions level match the first round. Santoro 35 beat 36-year-old Bjorkman. That's some match for those two men to be straight in still to a Masters Series event.
That's a preview of the Jim Courier Outback Series tour next year. As we see, James has not got off to the start that he would like. Fabrice Santoro has one of the best two-hand backhands in the world. So it's a tough dynamic. He knows that you're going to play a lot of balls to his forehand, and yet it's tough to get a clean shot at the ball because he keeps it so low with his slice forehand.
Even just on that point, it started with him just sticking his racket out, just blocking the return back, and he's hits a couple of defensive shots, and suddenly he's in a point.
Yeah, you can't beat him with one shot. That's exactly what James is going to have to do. He's going to have to use the whole court. Fabrice Santoro is subject to getting fatigued at this stage, so the physical advantage definitely in the favor of James Blake. And that's the play I love from James Blake. Make Fabrice Santoro hit passing shots on his forehand side. He's more of a defensive, neutralizing player on his forehand. Can't create. And because of the two hands, he doesn't have a lot of range. So make him hit passing shots on his forehand side.
God, that's just something to watch.
And James is one of the fastest players on the tour. So to be able to use that shot.
How good that has to be.
How many other players on the tour would you see even try a drop shot on the second serve? But to be able to execute it with such perfection, Santoro really understands the angles of the court.
Game, Santoro.
And well, I tell you, what did that drop shot do? That
game.
stymied James's little run to try and hold serve.
And it breaks your rhythm. The way he plays breaks your rhythm. He doesn't play like just most of the guys on the tour today that are just big bangers, hit hard off both sides. He really uses his head, uses all the angles, and he will not beat himself. Yet, he makes you hit so many good shots to win a point against him because he moves so well and his defensive skills are so great.
That's why I say I love this, because sport is often, I think, the most attractive part of sport is contrast. So when you have people or teams that do things differently against each other, that's what makes it fun. And this, I don't think there's even probably a better contrast on the men's game right now.
And that's why every match that Santoro plays is fun, because nobody plays like him. Now the good news for James is, even though he's not down an early break, he is going to get consistent chances on the Santoro serve. He's not an overpowering server. So we see that serve 101 miles an hour. So James is going to be in every one of Santoro's service games.
15 all.
That's a record that Santoro's very proud of when he passed the record that had been held by Andre Agassi.
That's what James is going to have to do in this match. He's not going to be able to hit through Santoro with one shot. He's going to try and elongate the court, get Santoro off the court, and gradually bleed him with his forehand.
What did James remember? And I know you've had a chance, you're good friends with him, about the U.S. Open match with Santoro.
His overall feeling was just relief that he got out of there, but also a tremendous amount of respect for Santoro and what the challenges that he presents.
40-30.
We saw an error, a routine error from James off the forehand, one of the best forehands in the world, but that is a symptom of Santoro's movement and the pressure he puts on you with his anticipation.
Well, he just is, even though now James won that point, Santoro just amazes you with his defense. He just gets balls back.
And he anticipates so well. He sees the angles and the shots that you're capable of off of what he puts, you know, off of his shots. James just overpowered Santoro. Sometimes it's best to not even worry about where your opponent's going to be. Just stick to your game. And that's something that James does so well. Just stick to his strengths, not worry about his opponents. But Santoro kind of suckers you into that style of play. It's like the gnat, the fly that won't go away.
James.
Cheers.
Trying to pounce on that second serve.
And another variable to contend with is Santoro's a great doubles player, so he's very comfortable in the forecourt. He'll mix up serving and volleying. He's got great feel.
Advantage.
You see how James seems disoriented? This is a result of Santoro. James has a lot of confidence. He played great last week getting to the quarterfinals of Palm Springs. Played excellent in his first match here. His win against Andres Seppi. I think it might take James a couple games to get acclimated to not just the conditions, but the style of Santoro, even though he's played him a bunch of times.
Cheers. Mr. Santoro is challenging on the left near sideline. That was called out.
I believe those are the sonorous tones of Lars Graf in the chair, aren't they?
That's exactly who that is.
You can always tell by that great voice. Ball out.
Santoro has 2 challenges remaining.
One challenge gone.
Advantage, Santoro.
You know, there's just a great shot there. I mean, Blake is just, look at James just standing there with his hand on his hip, looking at his racket as if to say, how'd that happen to me?
Santoro's been doing that for 20 years to players.
Exactly. All right, here's a terrific story yesterday. This happened late in the day. Rafa Nadal and Tommy Robredo played doubles against the world's #1 team, the Bryan brothers. Justin, they were standing 100 deep all around court one trying to get in, and people were standing at the top row of the stadium looking over into court one to watch this.
And a great opportunity to see two of the best singles players in the world square off against the best doubles team in the world, and it was entertaining and great tennis.
As part again of the ATP's efforts to change the doubles format to get more of the top players in. Andy Roddick's playing doubles here with Jürgen Melzer. And just the last postscript to that story, last year at the Masters event in Montreal, Federer played doubles with Yves Allegro. They played the Bryan brothers. Now the Bryan brothers are the #1 doubles team in the world. They've won slams. They've been Davis Cup heroes. And they admitted they were nervous playing in a Masters Series doubles event because it was Federer. They don't normally see a Federer or a Nadal or a Roddick on the other side of the net.
And that's the way James needs to play Santoro. He can't get into playing Santoro style. He has to power through Santoro and use his attributes, which are great timing, the ability to take the ball early, and pure power off that forehand side. Santoro is like a sponge, the way he absorbs power and redirects it. He's really an incredibly gifted man with his hands. James is completely disoriented. His timing is off with his footwork because Santoro sometimes takes the ball a little earlier, sometimes takes it a little deeper, adds pace at the drop of a hat, uses this slice. Someone where you really have to have your footwork in perfect form against. Once again, paying dividends, attacking the Santoro forehand. Not the backhand. He's got too many options on that backhand side. I hate to be redundant, but another thing that Santoro does so well is attack the second serve. Another area where players it's gone extinct, essentially, putting pressure on opponents' second serves, coming to net, because it's often the shortest ball you'll get in the rally.
You're describing someone, he just takes advantage of anything you give him. Venus Williams through easily. Serena's going to play later today, or perhaps into the night, depending on the length of matches. Serena Williams' opponent today, Flavia Pennetta from Italy.
That is what James needs to do. That's his strength, taking away his opponent's time.
Well, Blake gets his first game. Can wander all around. It's just terrific tennis, as we alluded to earlier. Venus Williams playing on a court that's not even a TV court today. That's how many terrific matches there are taking place around the grounds here at Key Biscayne. Another player, no less than world #1 for the women, also played today on a non-TV court. Justine Henin threw quickly against Sara Errani of Italy. Ashley Harkleroad would come back. She's into a third set.
think that type of point is going to pay dividends for Blake later in the match.
Move him, move Santoro.
Santoro doesn't. He cramped up in that match in the 5th set at the U.S. Open, and he struggles in these type of hot and humid conditions. He doesn't enjoy playing in these type of conditions, and physically he breaks down a little bit. You'll watch to see Santoro will actually try and shorten the points. You'll see that'll be a true indication of his fatigue when he starts working on his serve and volley.
30-15.
At some point in this match, you'll see Santoro will make a concerted effort to shorten the points, and that'll be a true indication of how he's holding up physically. Another great match out on grandstand. Carlos Moya and Frenchman Paul-Henri Matou.
So, Justin, it's an intriguing concept because here's this guy, Santoro, who doesn't have any power behind him. And you said he's going to try to shorten points. How does a guy do that in Santoro's position?
Well, there's more than one way to take away an opponent's time. One is with pace, and another is taking the ball early. And Santoro is a master of taking the ball early.
30-40.
Chance for Blake to get his break back. Got it back.
And that is great playing by James. It's an interesting contrast to the way James usually has to play because he's so able to just blow people off the court. But against Santoro, there's no real rush because he's a great absorber of power, but not a great creator of power. So James needs to be a little bit more patient and pick his spots.
Exactly. That's the point. That was the word I was waiting for you to come up with there, that sometimes can be a challenge for James, right? To play with that patience. So to use our pitching analogy, Santoro to me would be, I would think, would be like facing a knuckleballer.
Or maybe a little Jimmy Key.
15.
Where you're just constantly telling yourself to wait, wait, wait.
Right, but he's not. But that's the challenge of playing Santoro. Is he's also very capable of taking the ball early and doing damage with his backhand. On the forehand side, he's more of a defensive player. One of James's great strengths is his ability to blow people away with his pace, his ability to create. I really believe that's why James is giving players like Nadal so much trouble, because he takes away their time and doesn't give them a rhythm. He breaks the pattern of the points. Whereas against Santoro, he really needs to be patient and think it through and pick his spots a little bit more than he's accustomed to.
Well, there's again what you talked about, Justin. That's a great play.
30 on.
See, that's why he's not a pure knuckleball player, because he is capable of adding some heat on shots, changing the direction of the ball, and his backhand down the line is one of the best in the game.
He looked like a Williams there. I mean, where he hit that ball, a second serve, he was crawling it on. Look at it again.
30,
and that's a great point you made. You don't see that as much in the men's game.
That's a great serve there by James, because Santoro generally tries to sit on the forehand return. He expects you to serve for the forehand. So if James could hit some good serves wide on the ad side, it could catch Santoro like it did there. That is a weakness of Santoro, creating with the forehand. He could absorb power, he could redirect it, but he can't create power on the forehand, and that's why I love when James approaches there, and that's definitely a strategy that they're implementing. By they, I mean Team Blake.
Game Blake.
But you can even see, even the hold, though, against a guy like Santoro.
Marley and me getting a little tennis. He's a tennis aficionado. Him and his brother Luke. Luke was at the Sampras Federer match at Madison Square Garden. Right? He's very good friends with Pete. They play golf at Bel Air Country Club all the time.
How'd you miss that interview? That's the only one you missed. You were everywhere.
Luke Wilson's actually a neighbor of mine. He lives a couple houses down from me. I didn't know he was there until I spoke to Pete the other day. He told me he came out and showed some support. James is gradually wearing down Santoro, these long physical rallies. Even though it runs contrast to how James likes to play short points, this is a great strategy in this particular match for him.
Who's the strategy chief, if there is such a thing, in Team Blake?
15,
I think it's more of a consensus. James is very loyal. He has the same camp that he's had since he was very young. He loves the input of his brother, Thomas, his junior coach, Brian Barker, who still travels with him on the tour, who's, in my opinion, one of the most underrated coaches in the world. His players have always, people, you know, the experts, and always chimed in that James needs the input of someone who has played at a higher level or a former player. But James really believes and has confidence in his team. Also, I just got a text before the match that the leader of the J Block, Evan Pashtero, and their boys are at home in Fairfield, Connecticut, watching the match, doing their chants from their living room.
Ooh, J Block was about ready to roar.
30-40.
Blake had hit that return. One more break chance.
We've talked so much about the challenges of playing Santoro. One of the most difficult things against Santoro, any player that doesn't give you a lot of pace, is to create pace. Santoro just baits you into low percentage shots. James needs to continue to work his way in the net and make Santoro pass on that forehand side. That should be his strategy all day long, setting up the point, making Santoro pass with his forehand. And that's just poor footwork.
So 3-all. Tonight, the groundbreaking show that earned 4 Emmy nominations combining sports and science returns. A new light shined on some of the tricks of the trade that give the best an edge over the rest. It's Sports Science examining tricks of the trade tonight at 9 only on FSN.
And that is a great show, not only because FSN's paying my bills this week. That is a really groundbreaking show. I love watching it.
So The edge I'd love to have them examine. How does Fabrice Santoro hold his serve after being down 2 break points? I mean, that's amazing. And you see him do that, you understand that's how he survived all these years.
He's the magician. He's a wizard.
All.
Whoa, that's beautifully done by Blake.
30-15.
And this is better footwork by James. Watch, he lines it up with his outside foot and gets a clean hit on the ball. He needs to keep his feet moving and get in perfect position. That's where the variable and the quality of James's shots goes from one of the best in the world to just being an average player, his footwork. Santoro, he milks you, he baits you into losing your concentration because he hits the ball so softly sometimes, but then he gets it on you quickly. So you have to be very diligent about your footwork.
14-30.
Is this almost like Roddick yesterday where you were saying serve to the forehand, serve to the forehand? And he goes to back in there and just spots on the corner. And the ace gives him to refer to as the 5th slam. And a nice month of tennis in the United States, actually stretched back a little bit into February with some indoor events. Memphis and San Jose, and then you had the outdoor event in Las Vegas, the Sampras Federer match at Madison Square Garden. Back-to-back Masters Series and women's Tier 1 events. And then in 2 weekends, Davis Cup back in the United States. Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which was a fabulous host city last April.
That's an example of what James is so capable of doing, is just exploding with one shot on that forehand side. When he gets his feet right and is in proper footwork position, he is lethal on the forehand side. I really think James is gradually wearing down his older opponent. Definitely has the physical and fitness edge in this match.
Do you get to a point here, Justin, where players really start asking for the night match? Or a night match?
Oh, I love that play by James. When he's firing on all cylinders and confident, he really utilizes that backhand down the line return. He's definitely finding his range out here on center court.
Ooh.
30-14.
Would Santoro prefer to play this at night?
I think Santoro would prefer to play this in an ice rink. But yeah, for sure. But there's only a certain rarefied air of player that gets their night matches requested granted. And quite the contrary to Santoro, they would be doing everything
just like he did at
James.
the U.S. Open last year.
Exactly.
It takes that certain rare play.
But seriously, unlike, you know, it usually follows the priority of the person whose tournament the country is in. So James Blake, they would want to help the American, no difference than France or England or Australia. They want to gear to where the help the American players or the local players get farthest.
15.
I would love to see James mix up some serve and volley when he serves to the Santoro forehand. Santoro's forehand returns so defensive. He could plant a seed of doubt in the Santoro mind if he did serve and volley once in a while to the forehand, so he wouldn't be so content just blocking it back.
13-15.
And by Blake attacking Santoro, he takes away Santoro's ability to create and manipulate the flow of the point. That's a very well-constructed point by James. One more note on Santoro. I really urge all tennis fans to try and get out to watch Santoro this year. It's his last year, and you will never see a player that plays like this again. He is so unique and special. I think the players will throw him his biggest retirement party because they all want him off the tour. Go to the south of France and enjoy your retirement.
Game's second set. After James Blake had that normal early transition, trying to get used to the unique style of Fabrice Santoro. Santoro's opened the match with a break of serve, but James back to win the set 6-3. I just remember so much, Justin, during the Open match last year that Santoro was that classic guy that just wouldn't go away. He just wouldn't go away every time you thought James was about to impose his will. But you think this could be a little different in these conditions?
Definitely feel that way. The subtleties of Santoro's game have so much to do with his speed and anticipation, and any bit of fatigue, no matter how minor,
negates that.
Plays an exponential role in the effectiveness of his play. And that is just silky by the American. And you see the difference when he's in good position with his feet, how much more consistently he executes his shots, as we see Team Blake here. Brian Barker, my choice for underrated coach of the year, and to his right is trainer Mark Merklin.
Winner here plays the winner of a match that has just started between Radek Stepanek and Xavier Malisse, who's fighting back also from some injuries.
Xavier Malisse had a big upset against David Nalbandian, first time he'd ever beat him, so nice to see the X-Man back on the court and on the tour.
Cheers. Net for service.
the line.
And I love when James uses his backhand down the line. Such an effective shot, such an improved shot. That's a disappointing error off a second serve. Good depth, but only 81 miles an hour. James caught a little bit too far inside the court. It'd be so important for James to get on Santoro early here, keep the pressure on. And I really believe if he got off to a good start that the Frenchman, even though he's a great fighter, could wither under these hot, humid conditions.
As we start an early break right here. Ooh, Santoro.
That's the first time Santoro has been successful off the forehand side with a passing shot.
Yeah, Santoro.
So that's a nice save for Santoro. Last night, James Blake had a chance to do something. He's done this in other ballparks around America, but he and fellow American Sam Querrey went up the road a ways to Fort Lauderdale, to what's I think they call Dolphin Stadium. Anyway, it's where the Marlins play. And took some BP before the Marlins exhibition game with the Yankees.
Well, I saw James at dinner last night, and even though these highlights might not show it or be indicative, he wanted me to tell everyone that he hit one out of the park. Wasn't that one, I'll tell you that for sure, but 385 feet, he hit it. That might have been it. He said Sam Querrey hit 2 out of the park, one at 400 feet.
Yeah, isn't that something?
So he wanted people to know that.
I'll tell you, because you get that's a lot harder than people think. I don't care how good an athlete, to hit it out, even in BP, it takes something. I think Marty Fish has done that a few times, hasn't he?
Marty Fish, Mark Knowles. A lot of times we get an opportunity where tennis events coincide with baseball stadiums, and there's obviously a symbiotic relationship between tennis and baseball with the hand-eye coordination. And
it takes some strength.
Takes some strength. And some of these boys have it. James has worked hard in the gym. He's got an arduous fitness program at Saddlebrook Tennis Academy where he trains along with a lot of other young Americans. Marty Fish, the Bryan twins, John Isner, Amir Delic. They have a first-class training facility, and the fitness has become a huge aspect in terms of the training and development of tennis players. Pat Etcheberry, the famous trainer, he heads up part of the training for some of the players at the Saddlebrook Academy.
James' first serve been powerful.
And James has gotten so much stronger since he first came on the tour. I think he wouldn't have the confidence to wear these muscle shirts early on in his career. He had some twigs up there, but he is a big, strong kid.
So now he's like Dwight Schrute. He's running the gun show, right? James also very good friends with Derek Jeter. Another little element of his going up to the game last night, or at least going to BP, had a chance to, after he hit a few out, had a chance to sit around and visit with Jeter.
And because Jeter also has a place in Saddlebrook and trains in an all-purpose sports facility. So you think they talk about who's better looking? We're both great looking. Who's better looking? I'm perfect. You're perfect.
Yeah, I'm really weeping for both of them in that conversation. Yeah. We've got
who's higher up on the 50 most beautiful people list? When are we going to get in there, Ted?
Come on.
The announcer version.
Now we've got the women coming up here in the stadium after this. Davenport and Ivanovic in a good third-round battle. They're on serve in the grandstand first set. Stepanek with an early break.
And that That would be a rematch of the LA Open final where Stepanek upset James Blake if they were to meet. Stepanek also got to the finals of San Jose this year, losing to Andy Roddick. I'd like to see James try and make this match physical early in the second set. Maybe try and wear Santoro down with some longer rallies, even though it runs contrast to the way James generally likes to play. It could yield dividends in this particular match. James gets so beaten up for his low shot selection and trying to finish points early. But that's his style of play, and that's the way he feels comfortable. He likes, one of the great things about James' game is his ability to take the ball early, to execute low percentage shots a higher percentage of the time than most players, to create. And that lends itself to criticism for playing too low percentage. In this match, I'd love for him to play a more drawn out style of.
That was a beautiful return. Now, was that a low percentage return that he just hit?
On paper.
Yeah, beautiful.
But all low percentage shots when made are looked like a genius. And when you miss them, he's subject to a lot of criticism. And he's been very vocal about the way that he feels he needs to play and what the way his naysayers feel he needs to play.
Oh, Santoro got there and then tried his patented slice and dice.
Advantage Blake.
That's confidence and racket skills that most players don't even have in their bag.
James Blake putting a little pressure on, gets the break. With you all week long. We'll be on with you at every day during the week at 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. And on Wednesday night, we're going to mix in a little night action, too, because Justin Gimelstob always does his best work at night.
Not going to touch that one, but you're right.
Precisely the point that Santoro doesn't want to play right now.
Well, James giving Santoro some of his own medicine here. Watch this feel with a soft angle slice. And then just to add insult to injury, a little lob, and Santoro goes for the tweener. Santoro is hurting physically. These are very tough conditions, hot and humid. This is why it's such an advantage for James in these conditions, because he's capable of finishing points quickly, where Santoro needs to execute a bunch of shots in variety in order to win points. He can't just blow you away.
There's what you referenced in the first set. Again, you figure Santoro to shorten some points, running in on the second serve.
Out. 14-13.
So suddenly a quick hold has gone to deuce.
And James is trying to finish the points rather quickly too. I just got word that his stomach isn't feeling great, possibly effects from the humidity and heat. So he's making a conscious effort to try and shorten points as well. So both players feeling the effects of the heat and humidity, and it's very tough coming from Palm Springs. In the indoor season, you're not used to dealing with the humidity, so it's always a factor coming to Miami after getting the benefit of playing indoors for so long. And then even though Palm Springs could get hot, the humidity is way more draining than the dry heat of Palm Springs. Watch how long Santoro holds that ball in his racket. Such great timing and feel.
Advantage, play.
James not moving a whole lot between points.
He's really trying to conserve his energy. And having been probably the worst player in the history of the sport in humidity, I could really empathize with these guys out here. Only 81 degrees, but 65% humidity. These boys are sweating and losing a lot of electrolytes and fluids.
Advantage, play.
Made a little dent in this game on those forehands, Santoro.
James just not doing enough with that approach shot. Trying to shorten the point, but just not enough conviction or depth on that approach.
This is where Santoro's just really crushing second serves. Blake has only won 29% on his second serve. Oh, another one out.
Advantage, Santoro.
And he's 0 for 5 in this set on seconds.
That's where I'd love to see James serve more second serves to the forehand. As we see Brian Barker look on, it's so much tougher for Santoro to attack and get pace on the forehand return than the backhand.
No, and this one just completely got away from Blake. And Santoro levels the set.
And both players are really struggling physically. Santoro dropped down almost to his knees after that break of serve, and it wasn't in celebration, it was in fatigue. And the first thing to go with fatigue is your footwork. Can't use those extra little small steps to help you get an ideal position to execute the shot.
Is he trying to stretch himself out a little bit, maybe?
I don't know, but those legs look like he's played a little bit of soccer in his day.
Exactly.
And even though they've only played for 1 hour, it's been a very physically demanding match thus far. You're going to see James, both these players try and shorten points. James, that firmly favors James Blake, who has the firepower to end points a lot quicker than Fabrice Santoro. let's not forget at the U.S. Open, Santoro was cramping midway through the 4th set, and it was that tough challenge for James because he would be cramping, he would stop play, and then he'd run like a gazelle. And it's always tough for an opponent to really gauge how to play in that situation.
Santoro, his father was a goalkeeper, professional soccer player in his day in France. Fabrice grew up around soccer.
Oh, and that is the wizardry, if that's a word, wizardry. The acts of a magician, I'll use it myself, Fabrice Santoro. He just turns it over, such a strong left hand. It's something we alluded to on the two-hand backhand in our coverage yesterday. Troitsky was doing so on his backhand, and Santoro does it as well as anyone in the world.
Ooh, that's good.
And that has become a real weapon for James Blake. Steps in a little bit earlier, as long as he stays still and gets his feet in position, he's able to execute that backhand to perfection. Talked about the similarities between pitching and tennis, hitting in tennis. Well, soccer and tennis, those are the two biggest sports in France, and it's no wonder that guys like Santoro and a lot of these French players are such great movers. They've played so much soccer in their day.
So you want to get an idea of how tough it is at 5'10". But Santoro's little history, he was the French Open junior champion in 1989.
You want me to tell you who he beat in the finals?
So I'm sure you know that.
He was down 2 match points against American Jared Palmer and won 8-6 in the 3rd set.
Nobody fools with you, I've learned that. It gives you an idea how long this guy's been around. He beat Jared Palmer to win a junior major. And he played his first Miami Key Biscayne event the next year. He's played here since 1990.
I'm telling you, the players will all pool assets to throw him a retirement party, a la Gustavo Kuerten. I went to his retirement party this week in Miami that the tour threw for him. There will be a lot of happy players when Fabrice Santoro is sunbathing in the south of France and off the ATP Tour.
So in Miami, there you can take a look at downtown Miami. We're about 7 miles or so from there. Key Biscayne, James Blake, and those last 2 games, I think we'll start to learn now if that's a worrisome trend for Blake, who's in command. Santoro, you know, sometimes a guy like Santoro, Justin, could look across that. If he sees James and feels like James is wounded a little bit, that elevates his game.
For sure, and that's a point where even though James, it just was 1 point, that could carry a lot of value. He really was running Santoro over the court, and that fatigue could carry over through this game and help James get a much-needed easy hole to serve.
So Santoro knocked out the only man older, Bjorkman, in the first round. So a nice bounce back for James to hold it love there.
And much needed. His stomach is really struggling, as you could see. He's grabbing his knees.
Mathieu tie-break first set over Moya. The interesting thing to me about Blake, Justin, is people don't not necessarily realize, you know, James is 28. By typical tennis thinking, that's old. You don't look at James, though, and think, man, he's old.
He's very diligent about using his sunscreen. Well, I think one of the reasons for that is, A, he went to college for a couple of years, which most players don't do. And then he had all those years dealing with adversity, dealing with injuries where he's off the tour, his father's health, and that took him out of the public, you know, train of thought for a little while, and then the time it took him to come back and get his ranking. So he has some miles on the odometer, but he's playing as good a tennis as he's ever played in his life, and he is a threat in all major tournaments. And that's what James Blake is capable of doing. Finishing points quickly, taking the ball early. And when he's playing his best, he executes low percentage shots in a high percentage way. And that's the challenge that you face when you're playing James Blake. That's why while he's at his best, he's as good as anyone in the world that doesn't reside in Switzerland. That's a well-constructed point by James Blake. Using the full dimensions of the court. Getting Santoro off the court. I couldn't imagine there being a worse player on the tour to play if you're physically not feeling up to snuff.
And at the end of the first set, you're looking at Santoro thinking he's starting to teeter a little bit. And we've seen this you played against it so many times. Suddenly, he finds another wind.
It's like the boy that cried wolf.
You think that's any part of it?
Not necessarily consciously, but... I don't know, he seems to be moving pretty well for a 37-year-old that seems to be physically fatigued.
His knees, he did not strike a very good-looking figure during the changeover.
Well, that says a lot for someone as good-looking as James Blake. You could see no footwork there. Sure sign of fatigue. That's a great second serve by James Blake, overpowering Santoro with depth and pace.
Santoro, not sure it was that great. He's going to challenge it.
I'd like to also apologize to Santoro. I tacked on a couple of years. 37, he's only 35. He's been around so long, I actually thought he was 55.
Serve is in. And the way Blake has struggled on second serves, James very happy that was indeed the correct call.
Now with James being fatigued, it might be a good idea for him to mix up some serve and volley. Serve to the Santoro forehand, especially on the deuce side, because it gives you an obvious target into the open court with your first volley. And it's a sure way to make sure the point ends quickly. See the footwork factor it's become a real liability for James Blake here. Not able to take those small steps. As we see James Blake's service patterns, primarily serving wide. I'd love to see him serve more second serves wide, as opposed to serving them to the Santoro backhand. I'd love to see him hit more second serves to the Santoro forehand.
40-30.
That's a big hold there from James Blake. This would be a great time to try and pump up the energy level. He's only 2 games away from the match, so no matter how bad he's feeling, he needs to try and get some positive vibes, some positive momentum going, and realize he's close to the finish line, so give it all right here.
That's it.
Trying to do everything to leave it all out on the line and make sure you don't have to end up at a third set. That's a great point by James Blake. Pepper the Santoro forehand so you know that you're not going to be overpowered, and then wait for the open court and go there with force. James conserving energy between points. James gets a lot of heat for not being a smart player, and they are totally wrong. Totally using his head out here, playing the Santoro forehand late in this set, breaking it down, and then using the open court when it's there. Great opportunity to break serve here for James Blake. And I like that play.
Well, Santoro's had that answer a lot more, hasn't he, Justin?
He has.
Forehand up the line.
Up the line, though, you have to take that shot away. You have to see where Santoro's tendencies are and take that away, make him hit the shot that he's least comfortable with.
You said, you made a reference earlier, James feels strongly about those who have maybe some naysaying about his game. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. He gets a lot of heat by people saying that he's not a smart player, plays low percentage tennis, he needs a new coach. The fact of the matter is James has confidence in his style of play. He knows what works for him.
So he's heard, the reason I'm asking, he's heard all that, he's aware of the
Very aware.
words.
I think you know from the business, athletes have very big ears.
Oh, Santoro, nice job. Boy, he come back from love 30 for an important hold. You've seen Santoro through the years. You probably lived through it a couple of times on the other side of the net, Justin. It's like a piece of gum on the bottom of your shoe. You can't get rid of this guy. And James Blake is going through it right now.
In the first couple of points after a changeover when players are fatigued, usually are the points where they have the most energy. They got a little bit of a break, 90 seconds to sit down. Santoro once again attacking. Such incredible combination of depth and touch.
Santoro challenging the serve on the left far sideline. That was called good.
All right, so this is an ace and challenged by Santoro. Ace for Blake.
And because Santoro is so conscious of players targeting his forehand return, there is space there if you hit your target wide, and we see that that's where James has been directing most of the traffic, has been wide on both sides.
4 aces in the match for Blake. But he is just, I can't recall anything off the top of my head, Justin, seeing James struggle so much with second serves though. He's 3 doubles in this match. He's only at 31% winning points on a second serve. By comparison, Santoro, with not much with second serve, he's winning 53%.
That's a play that James is going to have to execute more as this match goes on. He's going to need to finish points at the net. I've always thought and was taught that the percentage of points won on your second serve is one of the most telling statistics in professional tennis.
Okay, so you paid attention to that.
Yeah, I paid attention. Unfortunately, I was on the wrong side of it too often.
40-30.
So a dangerous moment here, and Blake's won these last 2 points.
Attacking the forehand. Yeah. But in men's tennis, most players are going to win a high percentage of points on their first serve. Right. So it's how you defend your second serve that often determines the level of success that one has. And another big hold there by James. Every point as this second set unfolds, having so much value.
5 games all.
That's one of the reasons I like. That's one of the few stats I like to look at in a tennis match, Justin, because you always hear people talk about, oh, he's got a great second serve. He's got a great, well, it may look good, it may be heavy or whatever. Is it effective? Is it winning points?
And it's not just the serve. Second serve points won are a bigger indicator of how you defend your whole second serve in terms of your movement, your ground strokes, your variety, not just the actual serve. It's a factor, but it's not the only factor.
15 love.
There's no coincidence that one of the best, if not the best second serve of all time, belonged to possibly the greatest player of all time, Pete Sampras. As we see Paul Henry Matu up a set and a break out on the grandstand against Carlos Moya.
Another case perhaps, Moya now 31. Will he start to feel a little bit in this kind of day?
I feel like he's built out of stone. I don't know if he has physical liabilities, but if so, it would be a day like this where the temperatures on the court are even about 10 degrees hotter than the actual reported temperature.
And there's Santoro, perfect example tonight. Yeah, there is a second serve that won, whether it's you call it an error or not, he won the point with it. So we'll come back with the conclusion of the second set of the Sony Ericsson Open. So, Justin, James Blake, is he at a point where he needs to change tactics? Is he at a point where he has to think a little bit about a plan B? And what does he think about that when he hears the commentary?
It's a great question that I will come back to after this point. Stay tuned.
Look where Santoro played that point basically back by the wall.
Mr. Santoro is challenging the call.
Challenge, all right. Or is he not?
Why do you put your finger up all the time?
Okay, it's out, but okay, sorry.
15 love.
No challenge.
Santoro was just asking Lars Graf if he thought it was out, and Lars misinterpreted and thought he asked for the challenge. And in regard to your question about James, naysayers and people that are constantly bemoaning his poor shot selection and his style of play, James feels like his strengths lie in the ability to take away his opponent's time, to play low percentage tennis at a higher percentage pace and clip than most players. And that he's best served believing in that style and committing to it. And that he doesn't necessarily play a higher percentage or is more effective when he tries to play quote unquote the perfect point or the high percentage point. He feels like his best chance of being successful, completely committing to his style of game. So James has the tools to take time away. He has the huge forehand. He has great timing. He's got clean technique.
40-15.
Ellie again sat with that towel draped over his head during the changeover and has come up off the chair and played a good first 4 points. So Blake with a hold, and that pushes this to a tie break, and this is the way James has spent the last few changeovers.
Second set tie break.
Trying to fight whatever maladies afflicting him here. You know, just in the way you describe James's thoughts, it's, to use a relevant term during March Madness, he's like a three-point shooting team that will tell you, hey, if I make 40% of my threes, it's the same as if I make 60% of twos.
And that's exactly right. So spend your time trying to perfect the three-pointer as opposed to trying doing something that you're not as comfortable with. Do what you do best. That's the James Blake philosophy.
1-0. Santoro.
When James is at his best, he's proven it by going deep in tournaments. Masters Series finals twice in Palm Springs and Cincinnati, the Masters Cup final in Shanghai. And I think one of the reasons why he hasn't gone as far in Grand Slams, never passed in the quarterfinals, is his struggles in 5-set matches, which hopefully he's turned around, winning his last few 5-setters.
Oh, he did. I was going to say he flirted with that, and in fact he was called. James can challenge, why not? But
service line.
Santoro puts so much pressure on the second serve because he makes you go for that little extra depth because he's so good at absorbing the pace of the second serve.
And it's out. So a double gives Santoro
2-0.
First point against serve in the tiebreak.
Blake has 3 challenges.
There's still 3 challenges for Blake in this tiebreak. If he needs them, Santoro has 2.
Let versus.
This is where the gradual pressure that Santoro has put on the Blake second serve could yield dividends for him. And that's James Blake doing what he does best. Taking time away from his opponent, controlling the middle of the court, and putting his opponents under extreme pressure early in points.
These two played early this year in
3-1,
Sydney. The last match that many American fans saw, though, or aware of with this was this classic. Second round open last September. There's what Blake needed, a point back and get this breaker on serve.
3-2, Santoro.
That's James Blake tennis. Taking a low ball, going for the winner cross court. That is a shot that he is capable of executing when his timing and his footwork are spot on. See, he moved up to that ball, took an extra step to get in position, and that's what enabled him to execute that shot.
So they change ends at 3-all.
Fatigue is an interesting thing. It strikes you a lot more after you lose a point than after you win one.
I was laughing because, again, you look at the way this feels right now, and you would think that James is the guy that doesn't want a third set, the younger, stronger, fitter guy. But that's the vibe you would get. Maybe should not say fitter, because Santoro's obviously proven his fitness to last this long.
And that's a tactical mistake by James Blake. That's where he needs to be focusing the second serve to the Santoro forehand. Santoro's not capable of creating on that forehand side. Thus James knows he'll get another play at the ball. But on the backhand, he's capable of pulling it up the line, taking it early, and changing the direction of the ball.
It's just amazing that what Santoro's doing to Blake's second serve.
Another interesting part of the Santoro game, how many players on the tour now do you see hit backhands from the forehand corner? Sit back and enjoy this, everyone. You will never see another player like this on the ATP Tour, unless Santoro's offspring.
Oh, it's short ball, and he just punished it, and we are staring at a third set here. 3 set points.
This guy makes David Copperfield like he doesn't know how to perform magic. It's a joke what he does out here.
A big number for Santoro, more than even those winners. He's only made 15 errors. Now, obviously, Blake's going to force more play, but it's a wide disparity. 15 errors Santoro, 40 errors Blake. Blake doubles. Again, that second serve. Enjoyed the drama more than others.
Blake to serve.
For sure. And Santoro is one of those guys that either he's a physical anomaly that he's capable of playing under physical duress and still executing his game plan, or he's got a PhD in acting or something.
Well, you saw there from the numbers, this is the kind of day that in August wouldn't be a big deal in Cincinnati or something like that. But players would be more accustomed to it.
Well, I think the difference in Cincinnati is players are used to playing in humidity through the summer.
Right,
This is the first time
Right.
players are confronted with humidity. Coming from the indoor season and then coming from Palm Springs where it's a dry heat, I always felt as a player coming here, it's a real shock to your system physically. And as you can see, both of these players are going to try and play short points. Santoro attacking the second serve, James more with his power off the baseline. I know James is trying to conserve his energy, but everything that he has in the tank, he needs to put into that footwork. And I love that second serve there, right to the Santoro forehand. Don't give him a chance to create with his backhand. Then you know that that next shot is coming towards you, and then James once again approaches the Santoro forehand. He's got to cover that line when Santoro has that forehand passing shot.
The way it's going, James is going to need to sturdy up the second serve, because he's not putting a lot of first ones in. So he's only had one first serve in this game, and now it's a break point.
James's footwork is the cornerstone to his game. It's amazing the higher percentage shots and how well he executes if he's in better position.
Well, that's just the story of the day for James Blake.
Final sets.
And he has broken again to give Santoro the lead. Before the event began here in Key Biscayne, James Blake talked about that adjustment from Indian Wells to South Florida.
I think the courts are kind of slow, and it's not exactly, it's taken me some time to get used to them sometimes after how quickly it plays out in Indian Wells. So it's just a matter of getting used to it and feeling good here, and hopefully get through my first round, and then hopefully feel really comfortable here.
James off to a tough start in this third set, but he gained confidence from the fact that he was down a break early in the first set. But with him being physically fatigued, he needs to sense that in order to shorten points, he could sneak in when Santoro was stretched to his forehand. He's so defensive off that side when stretched. It'd be a great way for James to finish the points. That's a great point by James, but that took 3 or 4 more shots than it could have. Right off the first one, off that floating ball, he would have had a waist-high forehand volley, a shoulder-high forehand volley, and could have finished the point and not had to expend that extra energy of those extra couple shots.
Funny thing is, you watch Santoro sometimes and you say, I'm not sure which one's the forehand and which one's the backhand. It looks like he hits backhands off his forehand.
And that's a great point by James. Santoro played some great defense there. James' footwork a little more crisp. And that enables him to execute those shots more consistently.
So Blake breaks right back and breaks at love for 1-all.
James did an excellent job right on the brink of the match slipping away, raising his level, executing. I love that play. Attack the Santoro forehand, make him pass, and sit on the backhand down the line pass. You see, so much of tennis is at this level is everyone can hit all the shots, but certain shots they favor. And in the crunch time, make them hit the shot that they least prefer. Oh, and that is James Blake at his finest, lining it up and ripping through it. I've run out of superlatives. Santoro executes shots routinely that most players wouldn't even think about trying. Brian Barker, he had a full head of dark hair before this match. Once again, making Santoro pass on that forehand cross-court, paying dividends for Blake. Santoro is doing a lot of damage with that backhand down the line return. James just a step slower and fatigued, and that's the tough place to defend when you have those things going against you.
And Blake has skirted his first serve. He's getting first serves in this game.
And he's using the higher percentage serve, sliding it wide to the deuce side, which has twofold value. First of all, it's the weaker return from Santoro. Second of all, it's the higher percentage serve. Third of all, it gives him an easy open space target to hit into his next shot. It's actually threefold, not twofold.
Let's see where Santoro comes in on this return. Halfway to the service line. It's a relentless play by Santoro, and it's been wildly effective.
As has that wide serve on the deuce court for James. Serving there primarily at this point, almost exclusively.
So Blake able to pump. Santoro's had his own unique ways. James Blake went to a hat here in the third set after James went without one for the first two.
While Santoro is a wizard, he's not the only player that has found success playing with two hands off both sides. Pancho Segura, Gene Mayer, who actually played a similar style of torturing his opponents to Santoro. You had a more straightforward game, Jan-Michael gambled. So
challenging the serve on the left center service.
A few great players with two hands off both sides.
Blake's going to challenge this call of an ace. Call stands.
Call stands. 30-11. Blake has 2 challenges remaining. Love. Net. First service.
Just
James trying to concede the point.
I was just say he's done this before. It's like he's not even going to play the 40 love point. Just whack it and see.
Game.
James did that earlier in the second set as well.
Well, that's just fatigue.
2 games off.
We've talked about the Santoro return a serve. He's hitting first serve returns inside the baseline, but look at his second serve return. That takes so much skill and hand-eye coordination and timing to take the ball that early. He's halfway to the service box. And that is an impressive statistic demonstration right there.
So what would James do to counter that? Because he's doing it on both sides.
Serve more second serves to the forehand.
Just go to the forehand.
Or the body. When an opponent is taking the ball early on the return, you want to serve more to the body, and you see James not enough to the body. Take a look down here. When someone is returning the serve from inside the court, you want to serve a lot into the body and a lot into the forehand, because it's a lot easier to take the ball early on your backhand side, especially with a two-handed backhand returner.
Love.
See James playing behind Santoro, a great play against opponents that move very well.
Love.
The players each hold at love.
Blake leads 3-2.
Many nominations combining sports and science returns on FSN. And tonight, a new light shined on some of the tricks of the trade that give the best an edge. Sports Science examines tricks of the trade tonight only on FSN. So it's the third deciding set, but it feels like a fifth set in a slam as these players fighting fatigue, fighting the conditions. Trying to outlast the other.
15-love.
Blake had the first set and served a 2-1 40 love in the second set, and you had a feeling that he was zeroing in on a straight set win. But Blake ended up losing that game from 40 love. Justin, you found out his stomach bothering him, and suddenly he hasn't been able to get his grip back on the match.
You can never count out Santoro. He's such an incredible competitor and has so much variety in his game that he's able to adjust whatever challenges arise in a match, and that's one of the great things about his variety.
This is the other thing that off the surface you'd say had to be surprising. I mean, Santoro's holding easily here. James Blake has shown he's not really going to play 40 loves. He's not interested. So it's 3-all.
3 games all.
It's just physical conservation right there. American crowd trying to urge James on.
Yeah, the good word, conservation, because he's still got a little juice when he needs it.
We've talked so much about Tsonga and Gasquet and those being Davis Cup previews. Well, here we have Fabrice Santoro, a Frenchman. Maybe they'll use him. He certainly gives guys plenty of trouble, beating Blake and Roddick in their last encounters. This guy beat Roddick in the fall last year.
Now, that's an interesting thought, because Gasquet's not exactly dripping with confidence right now.
James gave him a beating last week in Palm Springs, and then he lost in his first match here to Tursunov. So be interesting to see what Captain Guy Forget has in mind.
That'd be
for
some bold
upcoming events.
Yeah, that'd be bold, wouldn't it?
What a great Davis Cup tie we have to look forward to.
40 love.
As you see, I sense a theme early in this, or midway through this third set. If the returner doesn't get some chances early, they're packing it in and gearing up for their next service game.
So that broke a string. We had 3 straight holds at love, and we're a point away from a 4th.
I would love for James to try and finish some of these points at the net. Every time he serves wide on the deuce side, Santoro just blocks back the return and have shoulder level volleys every time.
Here he comes. Oh, look at Santoro. Well, James summoned up the go get it, get back into net, and keep this third set on serve.
Blake leads 4 games to 3.
If you're a tennis fan, and I assume if you're watching you are, that you watch Santoro play many times through the years, including against Blake.
There you go, James. That's the way to open up the court. Every time James gets his forehand off the court to Santoro, he should either be coming in or it sets up the next shot to finish the point to the backhand. James playing with a little bit more energy in this game. He knows he's close to the finish line. He has the confidence in his game. He played great at the Pacific Life Open last week, getting to the quarterfinals.
Well, it's the first time in this set that the returners had an opening.
And now here it is, 1 point away. And all those conservation of energy of those points at 40 love, he's put it all into this game. smart kid, Harvard boy.
Nope, that's out. So Blake gets the break. The first crack of this third set. Santoro broken at love.
Blake leads.
He
5 games to
broke down the Santoro forehand. That's how he got that break of serve. And look for him to continue to aim towards the Santoro forehand wide on the deuce side off these serves. Has to sit on the line on that forehand passing shot. That has been Santoro's go-to passing shot on the forehand side.
Uh, 13.
No.
14.
It's just not easy today. Nothing easy.
Down the line every time on that pass from the Frenchman.
How about that? Each breaks the other at love.
Blake leads 5 games to
Personalize your life with Skinit.com. It's fun. It's easy. It's you. There's only one way to skin it. Go to Skinit.com. Choose your device. Pick your favorite team. The NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL, and many more. Or create your own at Skinit.com. Express yourself. Any skin, any device, any lifestyle. What's your skin? Sports, collegiate, entertainment, fashion, and more. Act now and get free shipping. Go to Skinit.com today.
FullTiltPoker.net presents the Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational.
They're planning the party as we speak.
I mean, and that's a statement that comes out of admiration. Admiration for the fact this guy can do this. And has done it for 17 years.
Probably putting in the most amount of money. He's owned Santoro. But really important right here. James off to a good start. Love 15, deep return. He's still only 3 points away from winning this match.
The years all run together, but it was just within the last couple of years Santoro played a night match at the Open against Federer, and the crowd was, I mean, the sets were competitive was the point. Federer won, obviously. Remember the night crowd in New York standing and roaring. They were so appreciative of the way Santoro was able to at least make the sets with Federer more competitive than most. It was 204, third round.
Santoro is challenging the call on the right far sideline. That was called out.
Santoro with 3 challenges, just loses 1, but still has 2 plus another one in a tiebreak.
Third job. Santoro has 2 challenges remaining.
Santoro's no stranger to long matches, drama. For the longest match in French Open history, 16-14 in the 5th.
Yeah, tennis history.
Against his compatriot, Arnaud Clément. The drama just seems to find him.
6 hours, 33 minutes. Could you imagine playing Santoro for 6 hours and 33 minutes?
I'd rather get a root canal. I played Santoro in Moscow one year. Lost 10-8 in the 3rd set tiebreaker after having match points serving for the match, and I locked myself in my room for 2 days. Just tortures you. Sucks the life out of you on the tennis court, this guy.
All right, now this crowd trying to put a little life into Blake. They recognize he is 2 points away. One point away.
Advantage, Blake.
Well done. The last 3 points, well done by James Blake.
Incredible determination.